Hello, welcome to the Two and Under podcast review of the Brentford match. I'm Jack in a very, very soggy Brisbane. We're having some kind of mad weather event here at the moment. So if my power goes off or if the lights flicker or something, that'll be why. And with me also in Brisbane is Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, not too bad. Staying out of the rain. Pretty hard to do otherwise. It's not like we can go anywhere. The ferry terminals have all been washed away. So
yeah, it's serious. There's like
it's really serious.
People are saying to me, "Oh, you're kind of used to rain coming from the UK," but I keep on explaining to people we don't get like heavy rain constantly for 3 days.
Certainly not for 4 days straight.
It's been literally that long, and it's been heavy rain constantly. So, I just really want to say I hope that everybody in Southeast Queensland is all right who's listening to this as well, because it's kind of affecting Brisbane and the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, and we don't really know what's going to happen with it. So. Yeah, I hope everyone who is listening to this in the southeast corner is doing okay. We've got Craig up in Cairns. Craig, you're usually the one with crazy weather. What's going on?
Crazy weather. Speaking of that, last night we had a mini windstorm or whatever you want to call it. Halfway through the live stream, I had to quickly dive out to help the wife go and catch a gazebo from flying into the neighbour's garden. So that was fun. That was about, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. Real strong winds for the rest of the night, all gone. But as a result of that, we had power cuts for the majority of the day with power lines going down. So fun and games up here in the tropics as well.
Queensland, crazy place.
Just a bit.
So the good news is, though, we've got another Newcastle win to talk about. So this was a really big win. Newcastle are now 7 games unbeaten. We've had 4 wins and 3 draws in that time, picking up 15 points along the way. It's actually the first time Newcastle have gone that long unbeaten in the Premier League since November 2011. So you're talking over 10 years. And the funny thing is, we've also had our longest winless streak in the Premier League in the last 10 years this season as well, earlier in the season. So that would be a quiz question in later years, I think. We've picked up 4 wins from the last 5 games. We're now top of this mini league that we've got going on. We've leapfrogged Brentford with the win, and we've gone above Leeds and Everton as well, who both seem to be in something of a free fall, which is good news for us. We are 4 points ahead of Burnley now, and they play their final game in handovers against Leicester in midweek. Newcastle conceded more goals than any other Premier League team in 2021, and they've conceded the least in 2022. This is a crazy football club. It's just absolutely mad what's gone on lately, and I'm so pleased that we've got some wins and some positivity to talk about. Craig, I'm going to come to you first. How do you feel when I read those stats out?
It doesn't feel real, does it? It feels like he's going to wake up, someone's going to pinch in, you're going to wake up from this dream, because good things don't happen to Newcastle United, not least within the last 14 years. It is baffling to think that we're on this unbeaten streak. I think it's since the Man United game, which was just after Christmas. So it stretches back to then. We've picked up wins against teams that we didn't think we would do. We picked up points against teams we didn't think we would do. And we're on this remarkable run, which, if you look on the form table, I think we are still only the second unbeaten team in this calendar year, us and Liverpool, which is phenomenal. You would never have thought that come January the 1st. The form we were in before then was horrific, but now you're literally a full flip reversal on that, and we are one of the best informed teams in the country.
You go back to that Leeds game, don't you? Just before the Leeds game, and it's that was a monumental win. I'm not sure we realised at the time. I think we knew we had to start winning games, but that win just before we went to Saudi Arabia as well, which seems to have turned out pretty well, was essential, I think. And then coming back and beating Everton as well. And you can just see football is a game of momentum. You can just see the confidence flooding back into the team. You can see we've got a settled team, a settled system. Mark, what's your take on the last kind of 7 games unbeaten run for Newcastle?
Yeah, it seems like something out of the Twilight Zone, really. I mean, we've gone from just dreading the next game every single time because we knew we were going to put 11 men behind the ball and not really sort of look to do anything, and still end up conceding. And when we went down, there was literally no way back. Now we're in a position where even if we go a goal down, as we did against West Ham, that there's that belief that not just in the fans, but in the players themselves. And you can see confidence is a wonderful thing. To go to the point where we're now second in the form table over the last 7 games or so, behind Liverpool, ahead of Manchester City. It's just surreal. Such a good credit goes to Eddie Howe, though, because we're winning games now, and it was all right saying, yes, we've brought Kieran Trippier in, huge talent, was great when he was playing, crushing blow when he got out injured, but we've got Dan Burn, who everyone was criticizing, Chris Wood, who hasn't scored, but has contributed so much towards the overall team play. We've got Matty Targa on loan, which was a really low-key signing when we made him, and it was something that I don't think anyone was really getting overexcited about, and we were kind of a bit sort of scratching our heads as to, well, hang on a bit, he was Aston Villa's like top player of the season or something, and suddenly we get him on loan, and they've all just slotted in perfectly. And they just, we've had St. Maximin out the last couple of games, we've had Kieran Trippier out, and we've still managed to pull out the wins. But not only that, but we're scoring goals, but we're also not conceding them for the first time in I don't know how long. So considering Eddie Howe, when he was first appointed, everyone was questioning his defensive capabilities, his defensive management style. Obviously, whatever he was doing in his time off was certainly paying dividends for us at the moment, because we look like a completely cohesive unit, totally different. And I think that result against Brentford pushes us to a point in the table where I think we've all said on our group chats, we can start to look forward to games now. It's not just kind of, this is a must-win game. It's like really crunch time again. And this was a crunch game, but we've managed to pull the win out. And I think it's given us that little bit of breathing room, and hopefully some self-belief in the players to keep pushing forward as well.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying there about Eddie Howe, what Eddie Howe did in his time off. Because Craig, you've spoken before about you went to watch Diego Simeone train, didn't you, with Atletico Madrid?
Correct.
Yeah, so he's used that time, and we were concerned about his defensive record at Bournemouth. It wasn't great. Maybe with Bournemouth, they're a smaller club, and he had the good attacking players to focus on. He's playing. You were talking there about we knew what Steve Bruce was going to do, so we knew the team, what it was going to be in the formation, and we know what it's going to be with Eddie as well. But it's just working so well that the 3 in midfield have just been outstanding. Bruno, he got more of a game yesterday, but he hasn't even been able to get on the pitch much because of the form of the 3 midfielders. The 3 Joes have been absolutely incredible. So it's a settled system, but it's a system that works. Other teams know what we're going to do, but at the minute, they don't seem to have any answer to it. Craig, your thoughts on sort of Eddie Howe's performance over the last 7 games or so?
It's been a breath of fresh air, hasn't it? It's something we didn't envisage, the defensive side of things anyway. We all knew he was an attack-minded manager, so we all had that the back of our mind going, yep, we're going to try and go all out attack, more or less entertainer style thing. They score 3, we score 4 type thing. Try and beat them that way. But yeah, defensively, I don't think any of us seen this coming, to be honest. And I wonder if it's even surprised Eddie himself, because he said a few times that he's not really a defensive-minded coach, but we're keeping clean sheets, and when we are conceding, we're just conceding 1 goal. I can't remember the last time we conceded 2. I don't think it has been for quite a while, to be honest.
It was Man City, I think. The last game we lost. That was Man City.
4-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no shame against conceding a few against Man City. So yeah, defensive-wise, we've been solid. Goal scoring-wise, it's been better. We're still struggling to get the 2s and 3s of what we used to get. But as long as we're winning games, that's all that matters.
Do you think he's had a massive stroke of luck with? We're going to talk about him. We talk about him all the time, but Kieran Clark got sent off against Norwich. Joe Linton was brought back from. He was in an attacking position in that game, and he was brought back into the centre of midfield. And the rebirth, the renaissance of Joe Linton stopped being a joke 5 or 6 weeks ago, even longer now. He's playing like a 35-40 million pound central midfielder destroyer. Mark, do you think Eddie had a big stroke of luck with that one?
I think if you talk to some of the players, I think they all appreciate that Joe Linton's been doing it on the training ground. Everyone you hear interviewed is always that they've seen this and it's no big surprise for them, and it was always a case of just of when, not if. Yes, we've probably had a little bit of luck where a change was maybe forced. Howe's hand was forced to make that sort of tactical switch, I guess you would say, a positional change. But for the fact that Joe Linton has done so well, I think it's tantamount to Eddie Howe getting his confidence up, because he looks for every stretch of anyone's imagination. I don't think anyone was going to sort of suggest that he would come this good. I think we all wanted to see how he would do under a proper manager, because I don't think any of us questioned his application, his work rate, his skill on the ball. He won the ball in the air as well. He was always doing those things, but just didn't really get to grips with playing up front. But he was playing up front on his own with no service most of the game under Bruce. So does it come as a surprise? Yes, maybe. But I think he's proven that he's got the skills, he's got the temperament, he's working his ass off in midfield at the moment for us, and he's competing. You could see every decision that goes his way, he's up and he's remonstrating with the refs, and he's complaining, and he's sort of having a go at other players. He has a go at Dele Alli because Ali puts a rough challenge in when we played Everton. He's up for the fight, and that I think all the fans are fully behind. Just the fact that he is clearly up for the challenge.
I remember when Eddie Howe did his pre-Brentford press conference in the first game against Brentford, his first game that he had COVID for, and he name-checked Joe Linton and he name-checked Shelvey. And I don't know whether that was just really clever man management, because those two were players who'd been much maligned and much criticised, and probably rightly so up to that point, fairly so. And you were talking a bit about some of the players that were signed, Mark, but I just want to focus a little bit on there's a couple of players in the squad who have elevated their performances to levels that I'm going to hold my hands up, I did not see remotely possible. We've already talked a bit about Joe Linton. Let's talk about Shelvey. Shelvey is played every game, I think, for Howe now. He has been a player who has caused quite a lot of controversy in his time. Maybe he's done some stupid things in a disciplinary sense. He just has that kind of languid style about him. He's a talented player, obviously. Maybe it's just because he's been here through what's been quite a dispiriting time for Newcastle over the last 6 years or so. But I'm just going to hold my hands up. I never saw these performances coming from Shelvey. It's only fair to point out how good he's been. Craig?
Yeah, totally agree with you. I've been very critical of Shelvey, as most fans have. For every good performance you get 5 or 6 bang on average, if not very poor performances. And now he's just Mr. Consistent. And we all expected Bruno to walk into that starting 11 and take Shelvey's place, maybe Willock's place. But they're both keeping them out there. And Shelvey, I've always said this, whenever he's had a captain's armband, he seems to let it get to his head, and he'll make rash challenges, rash decisions or anything, but he seems significantly more calm and composed with the armband on over the last few games, and he seems creating more space for himself, so he's got that little bit extra time to pick up that pass, to have better judgment for the tackle and everything like that. He seems a totally different player, and it's fantastic to see.
I wonder if he's getting more clear tactical instructions, because he was a favourite of Bruce as well. He played pretty much every game, but sometimes he was dropping back into kind of a sweeper role almost to pick the ball up and then trying his Hollywood balls. And fair play. He's always tried, and he's always tried something. He's always tried to make something happen. And maybe it's just the fact that the players around him have got more confidence now. But his free kick against Leeds is going to go down as one of the most important goals of the season, even though it was a pretty big goalkeeping error. So we've talked about two Joes. Let's get on to the third Joe, who was also really picked up over the last 4 or 5 games. There was an interesting comment, and I think it was in one of the Luke Edwards articles, about why Joe Willock struggled to settle when he came back from his loan. He said that he was living in quite an isolated area in Northumberland to try and get away from the bright lights of the quayside in the big market. But he seemed to kind of struggle earlier this season to recapture his form from when he was on loan last season. But he didn't maybe seem fit. He had an ankle injury before the season started. But he's now got 2 goals in 2 games. He is getting better and better with every performance. He's almost making it. We were very keen on signing Jesse Lingard before the transfer window closed, and I think he's shown that we didn't need him if he's going to keep on playing this well, and he's justifiably keeping Bruno out of the team as well. Really lovely finish yesterday, clever finish against West Ham. Mark, thoughts on Joe Willock's renaissance this season?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with him, actually. I mean, first off, I actually want to praise Eddie Howe for not dropping any of those players, given how they've been playing, just because we've got this new whiz-bang $35 million player sitting on the bench. Bruno's time will come. I think he's proven in his cameo appearances that he can do the job, but I've seen a lot of people complaining that he's not getting a start, but to me, Eddie Howe's doing the right thing, and he's rewarding the players that are in the squad at the moment who are doing the job at the moment. And it gives them the encouragement that, and everyone else in the squad as well, where if they come in and they do the business, then they will continue getting a place, and it's up to everybody in that squad to win their place in the squad. And I think that is brilliant management. And I think given the big money signings hanging over everyone's shoulder at the moment, I think that is brilliant way to treat it, saying that everybody's on the same playing field. If you come in and you perform and we're winning games, then you get your place in the squad. So,
and it takes balls as well.
And it takes balls when you've got a $35 million player or £35 million player sitting on the bench that everyone's itching to see. I think it shows good character for the manager, but more importantly, I think it is actually showing the right it's giving the right signals off to the current squad as well. And I think we're seeing that on the pitch, where everyone's kind of fighting for the positions and that nobody's letting up. And Joe Willock's a prime example where, I mean, earlier in the season, I think maybe he had a lot of pressure on him from that big money signing. He was under a lot of pressure to repeat his performances of last season, which, let's be fair, was never going to happen. We as fans kind of wanted him to score goals, but he was always seemingly playing in a deeper role. As you said, probably not fit, and that's no surprise under the Bruce style of 2 days training a week and jetting off to Portugal for a holiday rather than actually doing any sensible training sessions. So fitness, yes. I think Howe's shown confidence in him, and I think Willock maybe one of those players that needs an arm around his shoulder rather than a stern word and just left to his own devices. He needs that little bit of encouragement, and he's getting it, and he's reaping the rewards, because that finish against Brentford was absolutely top draw. And he seems to be pushing forward more. He's playing in a more advanced role, but the whole team is. And I think that's really benefiting him growing into that role. I still have my question marks over him in terms of his ability on the ball. I still have question marks over his passing ability, but he is improving in that area. But now that he is in that more advanced role, you can see he's benefiting from that, and he's got that goal. His confidence is up, and now it's 2-2, and long may it continue.
We're going to talk about that goal a little bit more in the next part when we get into the match. But that goal was assisted by another person I want to talk about. We were kind of told that Fabian Schär couldn't play in a back four, that he was too unreliable, that he's not strong enough. But his performances over the last he's been a favourite since Eddie Howe came in. He likes the fact he can pass the ball out. He obviously fits this style of football that Eddie wants to play. What he was doing up front at that part of the game, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because he did so well to set the goal up. But Shah he could potentially end up saving us some money in the summer because he's out of contract, but I think he's probably worth another couple of years the way he's been playing lately. He's playing like a £20 million defender. He does have his faults and he kind of loses head sometimes and makes some silly mistakes, and he's kind of more of an attacking defender than a defending defender. But it's fair to point out that he has been excellent as well recently, Craig.
Yeah, again, agree with that one. I think one thing a lot of people forget about Cher is we signed him for, I think it was around £4 million, £4 million. So he was never going to be a world-class defender. He's never going to be going into the World Cup with a chance of winning it or anything. He's never destined to play for Real Madrid, Barcelona, and those likes. But to justify his performances over the last couple of games, you're absolutely right. £20 million rated defender based on the last couple. Whether he's doing this to put himself in the shop window to get himself a better deal, because apparently there's talks of him going to Italy, I believe, but we are in talks to offer him a new deal. Whether he'll want to stay around and maybe play a bit part next season and be on the bench based on the rumoured signings that we'll look to be making in the summer, or whether he wants to fight for his position and be in that starting 11. And based on his current performances, I'd have no problem with him starting every game if he's going to continue in that rich vein of form.
Yeah, Newcastle are going to be linked with everybody in the world again in the summer, but it might be prudent to actually look at what we've got instead of going out and spending the money that it would take to replace him. And he probably falls into that category as somebody who could do a job for us next season and who might be excited also about the prospect of being part of the beginning of something that we hope is going to be extremely special at the club. Last player I just wanted to cover briefly now is somebody else who I'd completely written off. He's had an absolute disastrous start to his Newcastle career. Again, he hasn't been fit, but he's worked with Eddie Howe before. He knows what is expected of him, and he's contributing goals and assists now, and that is Ryan Fraser. We'll probably talk about him more in the context of the Brentford game. But Mark, what's your thoughts on the way Ryan Fraser's been playing lately?
Different player. I think everybody wanted to see the player that was at Bournemouth when he was fit and playing well with Callum Wilson. And Callum Wilson being out, I think everyone was a little bit dubious, but he's back, he's fit. I think he himself has gone on record with some little not so subtle digs at Steve Bruce and the fitness regime and all that sort of thing, which we all keep going on about, but is obviously a massive problem that we've had, is just the players weren't fit enough. And when you see the likes of Wilson and Fraser coming out, having these little sly pops at the old regime and how much better it is now, it does just sort of point to everything going in the right direction. And I think Fraser's benefiting from having that fitness level. I think his work rate has been absolutely off the charts. Skill-wise, I think there are times where maybe the last little bit of quality is not quite there as to sort of take us to the next level. Maybe we will be signing that next level of player in the future. But for this moment in time, I thought he is having an absolute blinder the last few games, where he's been probably one of our most consistent performers over this recent run of form, to be honest. And he's creating chances. He's tracking back. He's closing down. He's pressuring the opposition. He's just ticking all the boxes at the moment. So yeah, it's absolute revelation that he's the player he is now, considering what we saw or didn't see, because he was injured most of the time in his first however long at the club until the last couple of weeks, really.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to focus on these players really is just to demonstrate that Eddie Howe is doing an absolutely remarkable job. And it's not just because he's been given 5 new players, because the job he's done with the current players to lift them up to the level he has been the most important aspect of this recent run. maybe signing somebody like Trippier, who has got such a talisman, has helped to lift the level of these players. But again, that was very much an Eddie Howe pushed signing. So I love Eddie Howe. I've loved him from the moment he gave his first press conference. Any doubts I had about him were dispelled pretty quickly then, and I'm just so pleased that that he's started getting the results that his hard work and that his obvious quality as a coach is deserves, really. And there's the other people who I know love Eddie Howe are the current owners. I want to just touch on the interview that Mehrdad Guddusi and Amanda Staveley did with The Athletic with George Colkin. So this interview came out yesterday morning, just before the Brentford game. Really, the headlines from it, the main headline from it was that St James's Park, Mehrdad said that we're definitely not looking at moving from St James's Park, and that we're hoping to increase the capacity to 65,000. So that's something that's had a little bit of conversation going on social media. I think that that's the right thing to do. He said the right thing about it being our home. You can't just pick the club up and move it. It might be a logistical challenge to try and get the stadium to that big, but I think if anyone can do it, these guys can do it. They talked about the training ground. They said that they've got plans to have like a futuristic state-of-the-art training ground, which is we probably knew about that, so they're looking at sites for that. They said that they actually said, the quote was, "There's no reason why we can't be a Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool in the next 5 years." So that's quite an interesting way of phrasing that, and that's come up for a little bit of maybe questioning of whether that's over-promising something, and is it better to under-promise and over-deliver, or is that just are they just excited, or is that genuinely what they think about it? And they were talking about the fact that they've got the management contract for the club still. So Staveley and Guddusi have got the management contract, and they're the asset managers. So I think this is a really interesting point, because these are not the new owners. They own 10% of the club, but they're not the new owners. The ones calling the shots are PIF and the Saudis, who own 80% of the club. So I think it's just interesting to bear that in mind, because if things don't go right, or if something goes wrong with however they're running it and the Saudis don't like it, they could be replaced at the drop of a hat. So they were quite adamant in the interview about how they're going to keep the contract, even when they appoint a chief executive and a director of football. So we'll see what comes of that. I thought the interview was fantastic. They're saying all the right things. You've always got to be a little bit wary of owners, because owners often come in and say the right things, and then things go tits up pretty quickly. But that's kind of my take on that interview. I don't know if either of you got the chance to read it. Mark, I think you might have.
Yeah, I did. And it just sort of reeks of professionalism, but also the fact that they're just passionate about the club. I think one of my standout memories of Mike Ashley was I was at the away game under Keegan at Arsenal, and we were in the Emirates away end. Ashley was there with his bodyguards, and everyone was singing his name, and he was there drinking his beers and everything was all happy. And we know that he was off buying fans pints on the quayside and stuff like that. And I think it was kind of, he was trying to buy popularity. That's kind of what it seems like now. And then when he took a massive dump over a club legend like Keegan, the fans reacted in exactly the way the fans would, because that was part of their history. And you're looking at these fans that now Ashley seemingly didn't like now, because they questioned his authority and his ability to rule with an iron fist. And that's exactly what it felt like from then on out. It was just, right, well, they're not grateful, I'm going to do my own thing, screw these fans. While yes, they're saying the right thing, and we need to be a little bit wary about what they're actually going to deliver, because saying that they're going to do all these things and then actually going ahead and doing them are two completely different things. But they just seem to get the club. And that to me is the big thing, is that it's not just about what they're saying, it's why they're saying it. And they seem to get the fact that the fans and the region and the stadium, it's all what makes Newcastle United Newcastle United. And if they moved the ground, then they're not at their current home, and that takes a big chunk of what Newcastle is away from the region. And it does affect the fans, and it does affect the club as a whole. So yeah, to me, it sounds like they're ticking all the right boxes. It will be a wait and see for them to deliver, but so far, I mean, you can't fault them. The owners have been at pretty much every game since they took over. I think Staveley and Merdad have been at all the games. I think the Rubens were there on the weekend as well. They just seem to want to get behind the club and enjoying the fans. And yes, it's great while we're winning, and it's great when it's all new and exciting. There's always that trepidation about how are things going to go if we hit a sticky patch, if they don't deliver on a big name player, if they end up not signing all these new players, if we don't end up pushing on and we're still fighting a relegation battle next season. How are they going to develop from that? But the early media that Amanda did, where she was saying, look, we'll make mistakes, we want to learn from these mistakes and put them right as quickly as possible, that to me is a huge boost, because no one's going to get it right 100% of the time. And I think as long as the fans give these owners time, I think they clearly want what's best for the club, not just for them. And that to me is huge.
Yeah, they were talking a bit about why they haven't appointed a director of football yet as well. And I think it looks like Dan Ashworth's is going to come in. So this is kind of what I was saying around the transfer window time, that it's probably better to wait and get the right person than rush it and just get somebody in just because it's the January transfer window coming up. So they seem to have the long-term view there as well. Craig, I know that you were particularly pleased about the St. James's Park aspect of it, but yeah, what was your thoughts on that interview they did?
Yeah, the bit with Merdad saying, moving away from St. James's, it's like ripping the soul out of the club. And Jim, that struck a nerve with me, that pulled on the heartstrings. We've all got that memory of when we first walked up those steps at St. James's Park. You say the hallowed turf for the first time. It just echoes Sir Bobby's statement. What is a club in any case? And a club isn't a club without its home. And our home is St. James's Park. I've been there since I was about 4 or 5 years old, probably all the same. And I just can't even contemplate we're playing in another stadium, calling it our home ground. It was just did pull an emotional thing with me, and it's the right thing to say. I would love to see St. James's get expanded to 60, 65,000. Has to be the Gallagher end, obviously, because they can't touch at the East Stand for obvious reasons. And we all know the company that was developing the land behind the Gallagher went tits up. So that land could be up for sale relatively cheap. And the good thing about any land development or any stadium development doesn't do anything with financial fair play. So they can do whatever they want with that, and it's not going to affect that at all. The bit with the transfers I'd like to touch on as well, where they mentioned about Botman and Lingard, both saying they wanted to come. And to me, that is absolutely huge, because that is a bold statement to put out, because all it would then turn around is Lingard and Botman turn around and say, hold on, no, we didn't. We didn't want to be there. But the fact that we had those there wanting to come when we were at the bottom of the table in a relegation dogfight, they are selling the club, and that's the best thing about it. And I absolutely love that. And the other thing as well is bringing back Shearer's bar and the moving of Shearer's statue to the steps of the Gallagher. It's those little things that don't cost a lot of money to do so, but mean such a big difference to us fans.
Yeah, easy wins.
That Ashley got wrong, that they can put right really, really easy.
Yeah.
So that comes back. Sorry, that literally comes back to my point where they get the fans, and they just seem to understand what the soul of the football club is about, and they don't want to ruin that. And yes, okay, big business and all of that may dictate otherwise eventually, but they're not coming in with this sort of iron rod beating all the fans off, going, "Oh, we're going to do things our way." They seem to get everything, and they're doing their best to do things the right way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they do have to make unpopular decisions or at some point, because all owners do that. Even the Fenway Group at Liverpool were involved with the Super League breakaway and things. So, and they did furlough as well, which then they rode back on around COVID time. So owners, even really popular ones, will have to make at some point or another unpopular decisions, and it'll be interesting to me whether the Saudis take responsibility for it, or whether they work it between them to say who was calling the shots there. It's going to be absolutely intriguing to see what happens moving forward. But it's all sounding good. Everything's pointing in the right direction. And finally, the results on the pitch have started to back up all of the other good work going on at the club. So we will have a little break, and we'll be back to talk about the latest of those good results after this. We've done 36 minutes and we haven't even gotten to talking about the match that we're here to talk about yet. So the match was a real joy. Newcastle beat Brentford 2-0 at the Brentford Community Stadium. A couple of stats here. So we had 63% possession to 37%. We had 26 shots, which is like, when was the last time that happened? We had 11 shots on target. We had 18 shots from inside the box. I think it must have taken a whole season previously to get that many shots from inside the box when Steve Bruce was here. Brentford had 6 shots and 1 on target, which was in the very last. It was in the 93rd minute. Key stat that isn't flashed up here is that Brentford had somebody sent off very early. So we will get on to talking about that soon. Looking at their XG as well, actually, they had 0.5 and we had 2.1. So I'm actually surprised that they were that high, because they gave absolutely no goal threat whatsoever. And there was a period, well, from pretty much all of the first half, we were all over them like a rash. We were absolutely fantastic. So it would have been no surprise if we'd scored 4 or 5 goals in this game. But let's go back to the beginning and look at the team selection. I'm going to get our team up that we started. And Craig, I'll come to you first for your thoughts on the team.
Yeah, so carbon copy of the team that started at West Ham. I think we were all maybe a little bit disappointed that ASM wasn't fit enough to start this one, because we know, again, what a danger he can be. But I think it was the right call. If he's not fit, you're not starting. It means he should be good for the Brighton game. But in goal, Dubravka keeps his place, who's had a solid few games along with everybody else. You're having a good game when your goalkeeper's quiet, which is always a bonus. And Kraft, now in the West Ham review, I was very, very critical of Emil Kraft, to the point where there was 1 or 2 little people giving him criticism on Twitter because of it. But I must say, I literally got egg on my face after his performance today. He was fantastic. Can't fault the man on that one. He done everything right. Borrow a slight lapse of concentration, which led to their only shot on target, but that was in the 93rd minute, so I'll let him have that one. Shaw, we've talked about already today. He's been consistently solid. Dan Burn, bit of a wall at the minute. Nothing's really getting past him. Target, consistent, solid again. His crossing still a little bit left to be desired, but it was better than it was at the West Ham game. Shelvey and Willock, again, we've already touched on. Fraser is playing like a man possessed, like a 5-year-old after a bag of Haribos. He will just keep on running. And Jacob Murphy, again, solid, no real complaints. Chris Wood, he should have scored. He had that opportunity. I thought it was in, to be honest, when he had that opportunity, but it was a good save from the keeper.
Yeah, he had about 4 headers on goal in the whole game, 4 or 5, and he should have scored, but he still plays an important role for the team. And ever since he's come in, we're unbeaten. So it was the same personnel as the West Ham game, but I noticed that Fraser and Murphy had switched sides. And this is really important, because Fraser and Target caused Brentford all kinds of grief down our left-hand side. So, and he got the assist for Joe Linton from that side as well. So Yeah, the personnel was the same. We're playing a very settled 4-3-3 formation. Everybody knows their job, and when you've got the three Joes in midfield, not many teams are going to get much past you at the moment. Mark, what was your thoughts on when you saw the team to begin with initially?
Yeah, I think anyone who's complaining at the same starting lineup is not really watched the last few games. I think the players have deserved to keep their positions. Kraft, I think we've all touched on. I don't think he is a Premier League quality player. I think there were times on Saturday, the last night, it's all blurring into one at the moment. But there were times where it was clear that other players didn't feel comfortable passing Kraft the ball, but he never once went missing. He tried his hardest for the game. I think there was definitely that weak side on the right with Murphy and Emil Kraft. And in fairness, the team did all they could to run everything they could down the left-hand side. And maybe that was a game plan where let's just make one side really strong and the other side just needs to kind of tick over and do what they need to do and be strong and resolute and track back and what have you. But we're going to run everything down the left through Fraser and Target. So I thought Shah was great. He had his mad run down the pitch and he was getting nosebleeds up in the opposition half. But look. Cannot fault any of them. I felt so bad. I thought this was going to be the game that Chris Wood would break his duck for the club. And worryingly, he did seem to get a little bit dejected later on in the game. But he's doing so much off the ball that to me, I don't see how you could replace him. He needs a goal for his confidence as much as just to get off the mark and prove himself. But yeah, I think that team kind of picked itself. And more importantly, the fact that we've now won games with, we won this game quite comfortably, yes, with a sending off, but I thought Brentford played well at times without necessarily creating any threat at all. They kind of flattered. They had possession now and again, but we played really well defensively, and without ASM, without Trippier, and without Callum Wilson, there's like our three best players, and you take your three best players out of any other team in the bottom half, and I reckon they're all going to struggle, and we've done the business. So cannot fault that starting lineup.
Let's have a quick look at the Brentford lineup as well, even though this all went to shit after 8 minutes when De Silva got himself sent off, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But it was interesting that Tony was on the bench. He's obviously not been fully fit. And Christian Eriksen, I'm sure we'll all remember that moment in the Euros. And it was just such an amazing thing, really, to see somebody who went through that, to see them come on and play football in the Premier League again. I was a little bit worried when he came on because he's really good and because he had some good touches and he put a few dangerous balls through. But I think probably the game was out of their reach by that point anyway. So we were able to be happy for Eriksen coming on and not be too scared about him impacting the game too much. But yeah, what a real bonus that was for football, really. That was such an emotional event that happened in the Euros. So for somebody who's gone through that, to become and playing Premier League football is just brilliant. And long may that continue for Christian Eriksen. So let's talk about the red card. This was really funny because Mike Dean, in his wisdom, gave this foul as a free kick to Brentford initially. He gave it against Target, who committed the offence of having his ankle stamped on with force by De Silva. So, in fairness, on first sight, you couldn't really tell what happened that much. We were attacking, and it was a bit of a loose ball on the edge of the box. But the Mike Dean, I was saying before, it'll be the Mike Dean show. Someone will get sent off, or there'll be some kind of controversial VAR decision in the game. Luckily, it went in our favour. I don't think anyone's got any complaints about that red card, Craig.
No, I'm glad I got reviewed, to be honest, because I totally missed it watching the game live. I thought it was maybe a free kick at best, but I didn't see any need for a red card. But when you see the slow motion footage, and slow motion footage always does make it look worse than it actually is. But yeah, I do think it was right. The player, he didn't protest or anything. I know you can't really when it goes to VAR, but you can still be a bit pissed off, be a bit angry, especially with such a early red card in the game. It did have a big impact. Early red cards, as we found out from Kieran Clark earlier on the season, have a big impact on the game. And it's another thing that went in our favour, just like how the goal line technology went in our favour for West Ham. We can start taking off those tinfoil hats now. Things are going our way for a change.
Yeah, we're making our own luck, aren't we? That's what good teams do. You get yourself in better positions and you make your own luck. And you're right about the tackle. I think maybe it was just that the camera angle, you couldn't really see initially how bad the tackle was. And in fairness to Mike Dean, maybe he was in a position where he couldn't see it as well because it didn't look like an obvious kind of horror tackle on first viewing. Any complaints, Mark? Do you think Brentford can have over that one?
No, I'm with you guys. I didn't catch it the first time. Like in live play, it just looked like they'd come together, and it was just how they pulled a free kick out of that. But yeah, as soon as it went to VAR, I was like, oh, hang on, what's going on here? But yeah, that was such a bad over the top challenge. When you looked at it on the replays, he basically went to try and guard the ball and fend the player off and sort of turn the player and just went straight over the top of the ball. I mean, another day that's breaking Target's leg. It was a really, really bad tackle. So yeah, no questions. I don't think anyone who sees that replay can have a question about it either. That's as much of a red card as there ever is in the Premier League, I think.
So it's probably a good example of when VAR can work when it's used in that kind of situation where the ref might have innocently missed a bad tackle, but it really was a bad tackle. I'm really pleased that Target managed to get himself up, but looked at one stage like he might have to go off. But we didn't want to be losing fullbacks again like we had in the previous games. We wanted to keep that consistency. So really from that point on, it took us until the 32nd minute to score a goal, but it was coming. We started pushing. We were playing really well. We were attacking a lot. Chris Wood had about 3 headers in the space of 8 or 9 minutes, just before the goal. We've already talked a bit about Target and Fraser down the left. Fraser was making an absolute nuisance of himself down that left-hand side. 32nd minute, he gets down the byline, good bit of interplay, and he puts the ball in, and there is Les, Joelin, and Ferdinand steaming in at the back post, and it was just a brilliant header, bullet header down into the bottom corner. Craig, enjoy that one?
I did, yeah. I was over the moon, and not purely for the quality of the goal, but for who scored it as well, because he deserves a goal. He really does. And you're absolutely right about it being Les Ferdinand-esque. And for me, Les Ferdinand is the best header of the ball I've ever seen. And compliments don't get any higher than that as far as I'm concerned. And I love the fact he had his Adebayor moment as well. Runs a full length of the pitch, celebrates with the fans. They're all chanting his name. And he's going to go down as a cult hero if he isn't already, It's a man reborn and thoroughly deserved his goal.
I don't know whether cult heroes are actually allowed to be good. I think that they have to be a bit shit. And Joe Linton is actually turns out he's actually really good. But yeah, because of the way his career started with us, he's definitely got that. He's getting that kind of cult status, as well as becoming a really important player for the team. And that was just such a lovely celebration. He's deserved his goal for his performances lately. He's usually not very clinical when he's got the ball at his feet. And so it was a perfect cross for him, and he just absolutely powered it into the back of the net. And I think it's Newcastle, so you can never say we've won a game that soon or that early. But I think the signs were there that we were well on our way at this point because we were playing so well. And then we get to the 43rd minute, 11 minutes later, we've had a couple more chances. And then all of a sudden, Fabian Schär, for some reason, finds himself sort of in an attacking position. Fraser, I think they'd had a corner or they'd been on the attack, which makes it even more strange that Schär's in that position. But anyway, never mind. Fraser lumps it forward. Schär manages to kind of control it and pull it down. And he puts a perfectly weighted pass through to Joe Willock, who finds the top corner with a beautiful finish, opened his body up, top corner. That's the sign of a player who's high on confidence. Any idea what Cher was doing up there, Mark?
I think he must have gotten lost. To be fair, though, it's not out of his game to have those mazy runs forward and think that he's this box-to-box midfielder. He does play that way at times. Usually can have a decent shot on him. He's normally got a decent pass on him. But for him to come away with such a great assist as what he did for that goal, and the way that Willock took it, I just think hats off to both of them. I will touch on Joe Linton very, very quickly, though. I thought in the week he was getting a lot of criticism where everyone was starting to kind of have this conversation about, yeah, he's done really well and he's this great midfielder for us now, but is he really turned the corner until he starts scoring those goals for us? So I kind of wanted to someone, and if someone's sort of listening to this and fancies having a crack at it, give us some credit and tag us in it. But, I wanted memes where it was like, so Joe Linton's not the midfielder he is until he can score goals. And then Joe Linton underneath going, hold my beer, as he powers a header into the back of the net.
That needs to happen.
There were that both goal scorers put in such a energetic performance in the first half. So Joe Linton had ran 5.4 kilometers by halftime, and Willock had ran 5.6 kilometers. Willock again had 100% pass accuracy in the first half as well, and he'd had 23 touches, scored a goal, and created 2 chances. So this is what we're saying about why it's difficult for Bruno to get into the midfield at the moment, because the current players in there are doing so well, and they've both helped themselves to a goal. Second half comes along and not really that much happens. I think it was Newcastle just executed a perfect masterclass of how to approach a game when you go a man ahead so early. We probably expended a lot of energy. I think those running stats for the midfielders show that in the first half. We got ourselves ahead, and I don't think we were ever really kind of in any danger of letting that slip in the second half, which is it's a real novelty to be able to say that as a Newcastle fan, because we're used to just throwing things away and everything going wrong. Probably the good thing from the second half for us was that we got to see Bruno for half an hour. He looks like a top-class player. He settled in straight away, put some nice passes through, had a shot himself as well. Mark, what was your take on the performance of Bruno when he came on for longer than his customary 2 or 3 minutes, which he's been getting lately?
Yeah, it's nice for him to get that extended run and for the fans to really see what we've got. I thought he looks so comfortable on the ball. It's just scary. He never once, when he's on the ball, seems to panic. He just takes his time, picks out a pass, finds a teammate. Some of his through balls were just crying out for a pacey forward, a St. Maximin or a Wilson to get on the end of them. I think he played Wood through at one point, but Wood's not exactly the fastest player in the world. So he got closed down again. But those passes, I think, long-term are going to open up defenses. And I think if we get that running from midfield, from him, from Joe Linton, from Willock, that will hopefully push the defenders up more towards getting those midfielders closed down and create that space in behind that Bruno can then actually sort of take full advantage of. He just looks a class above. I think he's every bit that 35 million pound Brazilian international midfielder that we thought we'd bought, and it certainly looks that way.
Yeah, he put a fantastic through ball through for Chris Wood at one point, and Chris Wood, he's not the quickest. He's quite slow. He's not very mobile. He's doing an important job for the team, but he didn't get it. The defender got it. But yeah, what you were saying there, if that was Callum Wilson, or even if it was Willock pushing further forward, or who knows who we might sign in the summer, they're going to thrive off playing with Bruno, I think. Let's have a little think then. I mean, Newcastle just saw the game out with supreme professionalism. It was never really in any doubt. Brentford had a few little moments after Eriksen came on, and they finally had a shot on target in this 93rd minute, gave Dubravka something to do. But to see Newcastle just see a game out like that, they seem to have learned how to do game management as well in a very short space of time. They know what to do at what times, and it was reassuring to see that we could do that even without Trippier on the pitch, because against Everton he was the real catalyst for that game management in that game. But I think you can see the confidence that the rest of the players have got. I think Shelvey played an important part in that against Brentford. And yeah, we picked up the win, which was absolutely essential. I will put the league table on again in a minute just for a quick look, but let's think about a man of the match. For me, I just want to mention Fabian Schär again. Got some stats for Schär here. So he had 79 touches. He completed 2 of 3 take-ons for centre-back. He had 7 clearances and 1 block, and all of those stats were more than any other player for Fabian Schär. So that just backs up the quality that he's currently playing with. I remember against Leeds, he was absolutely brilliant as well. So he's becoming a really important part of the defence at this stage of the season for us. But my man of the match was Fraser. I think, especially in the first half, he caused absolute chaos down that left-hand side, put the perfect cross in for Les Ferdinand to score the goal, and he was just absolutely brilliant. So Fraser for me. Craig?
Yeah, Fraser as well. His assist for Joe Linton's goal was superb, and it was his. I don't know whether he knew Shaw was that far up the pitch or whether it was a hoofball attempt. Either way, I'm going to put it down as a superb pass to then set up Willock. So he had an integral part in both of those goals. So for me, again, man of the match.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, can't argue with that. I think there were times where Fraser is maybe guilty of not quite having the quality to put those crosses in, but for most part of that game, he was putting the balls in good areas for forwards to attack. Was a constant threat down that left hand side. Tracked back well, put his body about, but yeah, instrumental for the goals. So yeah, can't question that decision.
Clean sweep for Ryan Fraser. His improvement has been absolutely fantastic, and long may that continue. Let's have a quick look at the league table. It's nosebleed time, lads. Newcastle are 14th in the table, having won 4 of the last 5 games. So other results more or less went for us as well yesterday. Burnley managed to pick up a point against Palace, which might not necessarily be a bad thing because that brings us a bit closer to Crystal Palace. Watford got a point against Man United, but they're now 6 points behind us, I think, and they've played a game more. So I think I'm kind of thinking we can stop worrying about Watford and Norwich. Might be famous last words, but that's kind of how I'm thinking at the moment. And we did leapfrog Leeds and Everton. Leeds had another terrible defeat, 4-0 this time against Spurs, and I think Bielsa might have gone now, or he's about to go. And Everton were pretty unlucky in their loss to Manchester City, but nobody cares about that here. Final kind of thoughts before I wrap up then. I'll come to you first, Mark.
Just crazy days. You look at the form table and you look at where we are. I think if we win our 2 games in hand on Crystal Palace, we actually go above them as well. I think I said in the chat earlier on, we've probably need another 10 points to be pretty sure that we're staying up. I think 35 gets us to that pretty safe zone. I don't think you'll need 40. I don't think you'll even need close to 40 points this season. I think Watford and Norwich had a bit of a new manager bounce. That seems to have fizzled out a little bit now. They've had a few close results, but a few that they're just seemingly away again. Their goal difference is shocking. Leeds seem to be doing their best to try and compete with the worst goal difference in the league as well at the moment, conceding goals for fun. But the fact Everton and Leeds, and obviously we've got games in hand against Brentford now as well, and we're sitting above them, that's huge. I think for us, it's starting to look up the table rather than down the table now, and we've got some still winnable games. We've got some very tough games, but if we can get that tied up, I've said all along, I don't want to be going away to Burnley on the last game of the season, needing a result to stay up.
Definitely not.
I'm not sure I could cope with that. But for now, it certainly looks that we're the team in form. We are, we may not win all the games from now on, but we seem to be in games now, and I think that's the huge important leap that we've made, is that we're not just there for the taking and rolling over against teams. We're actually there competing for every single ball, and it's showing in the league table.
Yeah, 10 points from 13 games is more than achievable based on current form. I think we can be aiming probably quite a lot higher than that. I know Dimmy said in the chat he thinks we'll get 20 points, so he's actually been pretty bang on with his predictions lately.
Yes.
So fingers crossed he's right there as well. Craig, final thoughts?
Positive times ahead. It's now a case of we can look forward to the next game rather than look to it in fear. I do think we can be a challenge to any of the teams out there. It'll be a great sign to see how far we've come when we do play some of the bigger, more experienced, advanced teams out there. The game against Chelsea will be a very, very good test to see how far we've come. But yeah, I think it's a case of we look up to the table now rather than looking down at it. If we can get the 3 points against Brighton, then I know we're not mathematically safe, but psychologically, you've got to think the boost that gives on everybody is absolutely huge in terms of positivity for us and negativity for everybody else that's down in that area. I think we're as good as safe. I just feel a little bit more comfortable if Leicester can take 3 points against Burnley on Wednesday morning. I think the game is here.
Yeah, I think soon as well. All of the teams will all have played the same amount of games. I think it's in the next 2 weeks. Everything kind of evens itself out. So that'll give us more of an indication, and we won't have to be worrying about what happens if Burnley win their 10 games in hand or whatever it was they had previously. So I think we will wrap up there. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to talk about another Newcastle win, and just really to think about the positivity around the club at the moment. We've when we started this podcast, we went about 2 months without a win, and now we can't stop winning. So especially when we get opposition fans on for the previews, I think that's the secret, isn't it? We keep winning games when we do that. So long may that continue.
Need to find a Brighton fan.
Yeah, we did find Brighton fan. Lovely. So try and stay dry, Mark. I can hear the rain now, and it doesn't sound good. So I think there'll be a lot of people working from home around Southeast Queensland tomorrow. Craig, you're in Cairns. Anything could happen up there. Try not to get attacked by a dinosaur.
I'll try.
We'll leave it there. So don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Two and Under Podcast. We're on Twitter at Two and Under Pod. And the website is twoandunder.com. We've got loads of content. We've got opinion pieces, articles. We've got interviews. We've got match reviews, and we've got match previews. We will be back for the preview of the Brighton game later this week. Cheers, guys. See ya.
Cheers, everyone.